Welcome back, everybody, to the Healthy Habit Podcast, episode number 266. And we're live here with Richard Cividanes. I'm your host, Dr. Dejan Matijevic of the Healthy Habit Medical Center, hosting the show here. If you're new to the program, we started this channel about 3 years ago, but we started all the way back in 1100 KFNX on the radio days. So I'm excited to be joined here with Host Defense Mushrooms National Science Educator, over 25 years involvement with the natural products industry. Richard's experience includes working as a staff member in health food stores and natural food co-ops in New York and Washington State. He's part of the family who founded Topical BioMedics and developed the award-winning homeopathic topical brand Topricin. He was their brand manager and educator for 15 years, where he regularly traveled the country educating thousands of retail staff and medical professionals on the benefits of homeopathy. He's excited to share his love and admiration of the fungal kingdom here today with us, with its unique abilities to support the health of mind, body, spirit, and planet during his educational lectures and conversations like this one here today. Last time we had Richard on was back on episode number, let me pull that up here real quick. That was episode 252, about 14 shows ago, so go back and check that one out with Richard. Or you can just head over to our channel in the video section and just search Richard, and you'll see all the past episodes with Mr. Richard Cividanes. Welcome back, Richard.
Thank you, Doctor. It's nice to see you today.
All the way from California. How's the day going?
The day is starting out beautiful. It was no fog this morning, blue skies. It's feeling like we're moving into that, like the deeper springtime here.
Right.
You know, the temperatures are rising.
Yep. Sounds good, my friend. That's incredible. Last time we had you on, Richard, we talked about trends in the medicinal mushroom world between 2024 and nowadays, the last couple of years. Emerging research and trends that are exciting Richard the most for 2026 and beyond. And even mycobotanicals, we covered the immune powder, and we gave a good take-home message there at the end. And Paul Stamets' YouTube channel as well. If you've never checked that out, folks, just type in Paul Stamets. He's the founder and running the show there behind the scenes at Host Defense Mushrooms. You can just type that in on YouTube. What would you like to start us off with here today as just a recap, Richard, a good intro into the medicinal or functional mushroom world? We got to be careful on the terminology. Medicinal mushrooms could be referring more to the psychedelic type of world that's being researched right now, like psilocybin mushrooms. But then there's the functional mushroom kingdom, folks, like the reishi mushroom, the lion's mane, the cordyceps, cordyceps type products that we've discussed before with Host Defense. So what would you like to start us off with, just to, for someone that's brand new to the mushroom world in general, maybe even new to taking supplements, why might this be something to consider with all the research we have, to consider applying some mushroom products into someone's supplements?
Thank you very much, and that's a big space to step into
Right.
with that question. I think one of the coolest things about functional mushrooms is the way they connect back to our past and then come forward to our modern days and all of this modern scientific research and understanding that's occurring. Many of the functional mushrooms that are used in the world of supplements and that is being used in the world of research have been part of human usage for thousands of years. So we've got this long arc of, historical use that shows a lot of safety when they're being used regularly as these kind of natural tonic substances that can support so many organ systems of the body and the immune system simultaneously. And then that backs up to our modern scientific research that's been looking at whole mushrooms, isolated compounds from mushroom fruities, whole mushroom mycelium or isolated compounds from that portion of the organism's life cycle, and finding direct connections between these biologically active compounds and the kinds of supports that people are looking for. The mushrooms have this beautiful like tonic capacity in the body, and for many of the kind of structure function things that people are out there shopping in the supplement aisles for these days. Support for stress, support for hormonal balance, for sleep, for cognitive functioning and mood and energy, for healthy aging, and for, supporting the immune system. mushrooms kind of check off all of those different boxes, and increasingly people are looking for, more natural daily wellness solutions that feel, more personalized to their symptoms and the things that they're experiencing in their life. I always try to influence people to become more interested in the fungal kingdom. It is one of the most biologically active kingdoms on Earth in regards to the amount of biologically active compounds that have been discovered. And again, we have this long arc of use. Some of the mushrooms that we grow at our facilities today that go into our products that are on your shelves, they have been used for thousands of years by humans to support health. So, I love that connection of going back into the archaic opportunities and understandings, and then backing that up with all of this modern day scientific research that, even at the human clinical level, is validating many of these mushroom species as potential supports for health and wellness. And that's one of the most exciting aspects. There's some confusion in the industry in regards to like what is a mushroom. There are some places where people say, well, it's only the fruit body that's the mushroom. Us at Host Defense, we're lovers of the fungal organism. We grow a range of species in fruit bodies that we put into our liquid extracts. We also grow enormous amounts of mushroom mycelium of 17 different functional species. And so there's some confusion sometimes as to like, well, what is the mushroom, right? And for us, the mycelium and the fruit bodies are two different sides of the same organism's life cycle. The mycelium is the living cell structure that exists year after year. It's this very loose, continuously branching, interweaving groups of cell chains. It's only one single cell wall thick. And that's kind of like the operating system for the organism. It's the digestive system, it's the immune system, it's what's directing all of the growth patterns. It's what's deciding when it's time to go into reproduction. And when the mycelium decides it's time to go into reproduction, it takes that very loose single cell network of branching cell chains, and it starts to divert its energy from digestion and growth, and it starts to push that energy into developing and building the fruit body, which is the reproductive organ of the organism. It's responsible for growing spores and releasing spores into the ecosystem to continue the propagation and the expansion of the organism. So one of the cool things that we've discovered in research over the last decades is that in nature, mushroom mycelium functions as a nature immune system. It's helping to support balance of microbial populations in the soil systems by its generation and secretion of immune compounds and antioxidant compounds. And one of the cool things that we've discovered is that some of these same biologically active compounds that these organisms use in their environments to help maintain microbial balance in the ecosystem are the same kinds of biologically active compounds that can support human organ systems and the immune system. So these mushrooms have this really interesting kind of almost like fractal engagement that they have with the surrounding ecosystem and then individual species like humans, where you're getting these same types of immune support processes occurring.
Right.
So the conversation for us is not about like which one is better. It's, are you choosing to include all of the varieties of these fungal organisms into your day-to-day? We're trying to always influence people to eat more mushroom fruit bodies in their diets, consume that range of mushrooms you can find in your produce sections, your shiitakes and oyster mushrooms and maitake and lion's mane, right? Those are culinary. They're also functional beneficial. And then obviously utilizing supplementation that can help to support your digestive systems, immune system functioning, and other organ systems at the same time. It's a great opportunity to use natural substances, natural organisms that have this capacity to have such overlapping supports across different organ systems in the body. And that's the part for me that is the most interesting and exciting. And even though there's over 50 years of research on mushrooms and fungal organisms, mycology's never been phenomenally funded, so I think we are still in the infancy, if you will, or maybe a little bit above infancy of the research understanding. Like anybody who claims to have the end all be all answers is probably speaking with a bit of hyperbole, because I don't think anybody has all of the answers clearly indicated. Although a lot of the research that's happened is pointing in really, really positive directions, including some of the human clinical studies that have happened in the realm of functional mushrooms and human health. Even us at Host Defense, we've had our mushroom mycelium studied in a number of human clinical trials and even double-blind, placebo-controlled research studies at the university level, all with really fantastic findings and commitments to continue engaging that research forward,
Right.
so we can understand more as time goes on.
That's a great answer right there to my question. You just answered three questions in one, basically, and the next two that I had on my list here, which was the first of which was the fact that functional mushrooms have exploded in popularity over the last several years. And then I was going to ask, from your perspective, what are people still fundamentally misunderstanding about fungi or fungi? And you answered that in that opening statement. And then as well, do you think we're still early in understanding fungi scientifically? And you went ahead and answered that as well, that we're still very early in this field with the research, right? So thank you, my friend, for answering that. That was perfect. If someone was to walk into Healthy Habit Health Foods here and they get to our mushroom section, you see 30 different mushroom products on the shelf, what are some of the questions they should be asking our staff here before moving forward and purchasing any of these? What are some good heavy hitter questions that everyone should be aware of?
That's an excellent question, and I'm going to keep it directly to our mushroom category because
Yeah,
that's where I'm
right.
kind of an expert at the time here. And from my for me, some of the biggest aspects and biggest questions that can be asked are kind of the simplest ones. Where are the raw ingredients for the mushroom supplements being grown and how are they being processed? And very importantly, are they being third-party lab tested for safety before they're being put on the shelf? Those are really important questions. A lot of mushroom material comes from third-party, producers that are growing them. If those growing environments are not clean, if they are not doing their due diligence to ensure, proper processes, moving forward in their growing and their production, that can lead to levels of contamination. And so it's really important that you find out where the mushrooms are being grown and if they are being tested for safety, which is something like at Host Defense we take really seriously. We grow all of our own mushroom material at our facilities. We grow all of our mushroom mycelium, all of our mushroom fruit bodies. We still regularly test the water at our facilities. We test the substrates that our mycelium is growing in. We test the end product after the mycelium is grown to maturity and we've processed it to what's going to become the supplement. It gets tested again at a third party laboratory. We're ensuring that there are the levels of contaminants are not going to become problematic for an individual who's choosing to use a host defense supplement to support their health. And that's something that is really, really vital in our industry, is to make sure you know where your raw ingredients are coming from
Yeah.
and that they're being tested. Just because something has that little USDA organic label on it does not mean it has gone through the safety testing. So to me, that's the most important aspect, because we want people using supplements of the highest quality that are going to be providing them with the material that they're looking for without that contaminant considerations that can happen.
Right.
Like mushrooms can bioaccumulate pesticides and fungicides and microbiological contamination and pesticides and heavy metals, things that are in their growing environments, they can bioaccumulate. And this is why we have to ensure that the mushroom material is being grown in a proper way. For us, all of our material is grown up in Washington State at our labs and facilities up, at the Fungi Perfecti farm. It's all done under under Paul Stamets, who is a world-renowned mycologist. So he's helped to set up all of these kinds of the processes that occur within our facilities. We are NSF certified. We're compliant with all of our good manufacturing practices in our facilities regularly, following our standard operating procedures. Again, doing that regular third-party lab testing to ensure safety of the raw materials and the end product. Vitally important for making a high class supplement that is going to be helpful to a person, as opposed to potentially taking away from an individual as they're using a less effective supplement, or one that has contaminant problems.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's a good list. Can you still hear me? We might have lost Richard there for a sec. There we go. He's back. Great answer to that. Perfect. And folks, you might want to listen to that response one more time. Take some notes on your phone. Bring that list in with you here at Healthy Habit and run through some of those with our staff. Appreciate that answer. We have a running joke here, Richard, me and Jim, the store owner, Jim, that certain supplements are more underrated than other supplements. If you had to pick one mushroom from your perspective, what's the most underrated mushroom, the most underrated functional mushroom supplement through host defense that somebody can start using today? No medical advice here, folks. This is just Richard's favorites in terms of all the different things they can accomplish for our health, or promote for our health.
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely have an answer that I think personally, because there are some mushrooms, like a few that we've already mentioned, lion's mane, reishi, chaga. They're kind of well known. They're more popularized. People understand them. They've been around longer as supplements. We grow a mushroom species that we're very, very deeply connected to at Fungi Perfecti and Host Defense. It has been a project for Paul's for decades, looking for this very, very rare, hard to find fruit body in the Pacific Northwest old growth forests. It's called Agarikon. And I think in our whole line, Agarikon is one of our mushroom species that still does not get the attention that it deserves as a supplement. Of all of the mushrooms that we have studied, Agarikon has the most robust support of all of the different stages of the human immune response. We've had our Agarikon has been part of a double-blind placebo-controlled study, the Host Defense Agarikon and turkey tail in combination. And those two immune-supporting mushrooms in that human study were found to significantly and for a long period of time support not only things like immune cell engagement and immune modulation, but also the tissue generative activity of the immune system as well. So for me, anytime I start feeling like my body is getting challenged by something, Agarikon goes into my repertoire of supplements that I'm using in the daytime. It's not a mushroom that I personally use every single day, but when I travel, or anytime I'm starting to feel challenged, I start, taking Agarikon, and I think for certain it's one of our, I always refer to it as a sleeper mushroom. Like, it's there on the shelf. If people really understood the immune system impacts that mushroom can play, I think it would become much more popular because of not only of its long historical use and evidence of positive interactions with people, but also now backing up again to modern research where we're starting to understand more of the bioactive compounds that are found in this fungal organism, and seeing some of the human clinical data about its impacts on supporting the human immune system at the same time. It's a phenomenal mushroom to think of when you're wanting that immune system working strong for you, but in a beautifully balanced manner as well.
Episode 266 here, folks, with Richard Cividanes, National Science Educator at Host Defense Mushrooms. Last question was, what's your most underrated supplement in Richard's specific opinion? And we covered the Agarikon species here. If you just Google even Agarikon, that's Agarikon, Host Defense, and click that first link, you'll come to this page here, which shows all the different supplements at Host Defense that contains Agarikon. One of them is just a standalone. This one here is just straight up Agarikon capsules. But then you'll also find it in the My Community, the Myco Shield, and the My Community comes in an extract, a liquid extract as well. It's in the Mycobotanicals Immune Powder, which we covered in episode 252 with Richard. Which one would you highlight here as a good starting point to get some of that Agarikon going? And by the way, folks, it's extremely rare. As you can see up here, it's an extremely rare mushroom species, surviving primarily in the old-growth forests of the Pacific Northwest, which is, if I'm not mistaken, where Host Defense is headquartered, like you mentioned earlier. Yeah. So, and the good thing about Fungi Perfecti, or Host Defense, which is basically the parent company to Host Defense, they focused on building an extensive culture library to help preserve this important mushroom species. What's the benefit of by itself versus combining it with something like turkey tail, as you can see here in this bundle? How would you start off?
Yeah, and that thank you. And you know, what first and foremost, you know, because you did mention that it's a rare fungal organism. In some places of the world, it is truly endangered. We are not extracting this out of the wild. You know, when we find Agarikon in the wild, we take small little samples of its tissue, and we take that tissue back to the lab, and we're able to preserve that strain of the species that we have found in the wild. We have over 110 Agarikon strains that we have discovered in the old growth forest over the last few decades. That combination that you mentioned, the Agarikon and turkey tail, I love that two mushroom combination. And you find those two mushrooms combined together in a number of our products. Like, they are 2 of the 5 species in the Myco Shield throat sprays. They are 2 of the 5 species in the Mycobotanicals Immune Powder. Together, they really can robustly support all of the stages of the human immune system. Turkey tail, I like to break these two mushrooms down in more simpler terms. Turkey tail helps to support extracellular immune surveillance. So it helps to support immune cell engagement. It helps to support immune cells in their ability to identify molecules in our body that are not ours. So extracellular immune support. Agarikon plays a really big, powerful role in that extracellular immune support. It also plays a very dramatic role in what's known as intracellular immune support, supporting the immune functioning inside the human cells. And just as for instance, one of the molecules that we see being upregulated in cell studies with Agarikon is an important white blood cell signaler called interferon gamma. And interferon gamma plays a role in, blocking things from getting into our cells. So Agarikon can play a real beautiful role in that intracellular immune response. It's playing extracellular immune support functions. And then turkey tail, the most studied of all of the beneficial mushrooms, is the turkey tail. And that has also been found to very powerfully support immune cell engagement. So when we look at those two mushrooms in combination, including in some of the human clinical studies that have been done on them, they can really significantly support immune health for a person who's using them.
And you can see I just pulled up Turkey Tail Health Scholar on Google, and like Richard was just saying, rich body of research supporting turkey tail. It's prized in integrative medicine for its rich concentration of beta-glucans and polysaccharides, which, what do? They're powerful immunomodulators, meaning they help put the immune system back into balance, or in that homeostasis, as well as healthy gut microbiome it can potentially help with. Tell us a little bit more about that, how mushrooms, not just turkey tail, but in general, how are they able to promote a healthy gut microbiome?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And turkey tail has some really beautiful, even human clinical studies on its ability to support the proliferation of probiotic bacterial species in our digestive system. I mean, most simply, the way I understand it is that many of these mushroom species, they functionally act as prebiotic substances to a variety of species of bacteria in our digestive system. So the bacterial species literally use the mushrooms as a food source themselves. We see support across a range of different digestive system activities when it comes to mushrooms. Many species, turkey tail, lion's mane, reishi, chaga, just to name a few, play roles in proliferating probiotic bacterial species. So they play roles as prebiotics.
Yeah.
They play roles in supporting the digestive system's immune system, the what's known as the gut-associated lymphoid tissue.
Hmm.
Some of these mushroom species play roles in supporting the integrity of the barrier of our digestive system, which is a really
Wow.
important barrier. And when we look at our microbiome and we consider it as being, like kind of our primary immune response, it is playing this direct role constantly in our digestive system in literally training our immune cells to recognize, friend from foe. And these organisms, the mushrooms, as they're being consumed by the bacterial species, it supports those bacteria and being able to create what we refer to as postbiotics. The compounds that are created through the bacterial fermentation and digestion of indigestible fibers. So things like short chain fatty acid production can be supported via the consumption of mushroom material. And this is a place for host defense that I really love our connection to the gut because of the way that we grow our mycelium. We grow it on organic brown rice. And as the mycelium is growing through the rice and it's digesting the rice as it's growing through it, a part of the mycelial digestive process is to ferment what it's digesting. And as the mycelial enzymes ferment the rice, it transforms the rice starches into these immunological powerhouse compounds that we have studied, and we've found that the fermented rice in our product is biologically active. It's supportive of stages of the human immune response, and it also functions as a prebiotic to bacterial species in the digestive system. So when you're consuming mycelium and fermented rice products like that turkey tail, you're delivering a food source of the mycelium and the fermented rice right into your digestive microbiome, and it's using that as a food source itself. So when we're supporting the microbiome and diversity there, we know that gut health and microbiome health is being linked to many other organ systems, even because of the roles that the bacterial species play in our digestive system in supporting other organs like the brain or the skin or the respiratory system, for instance. So again, it's a place where I always fall back and try to help influence people to consider eating more mushrooms in their diet. Save those fruit bodies, like cook them in your meals. When you're using the supplements, use those mycelium or the mycelium fruit body extracts like that we produce at Host Defense to further support your immune system and your digestive system as well. Because again, those two systems, the digestive system and the immune system, are intimately linked through the bacterial species that exist within us.
Incredible answer, my man. Thank you so much for that last minute or two here, but that was incredible, very important for here on episode 266, and it was a good reminder of pre and postbiotics. Most people have heard of probiotics, which is the actual bacteria itself, basically, that live in the gut, but then you have the pre that feed those bacteria, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm missing something that you said, Richard, and then that allows the bacteria to produce healthier postbiotics, which are those metabolites like short chain fatty acids, butyrate, these anti-inflammatory molecules that help keep the tight junctions in the gut sealed so stuff doesn't leak into the bloodstream and cause that permeability in the intestines, which is that leaky gut syndrome that a lot of people have heard of. So, and most Americans aren't getting enough prebiotics in the diet, which is essentially fiber and mushrooms and these types of nutrients. So thank you so much for putting that back on our radar. But what would you leave us with here? Important episode. We talked about smartest questions a customer should ask before buying a mushroom supplement. We highlighted Agarikon, your most underrated mushroom from your perspective, and how that can combine with other mushrooms like turkey tail, which is one of the most well-studied mushrooms. We even covered why someone should have mushrooms on their radar at all, and the fact that we're early in the research in this field, and some misunderstandings that are really common. So action-packed, informative show. What would you leave us here with, Mr. Richard Cividanes?
Yeah, and thanks. I really always appreciate the time and the energy and effort that you put into presenting these. So thank you. Again, I think that people are interested in mushrooms. There's so many resources out there in the world today. Do focus in on on the published research literature. There's a great website called mushroomreferences.com if anybody's interested in looking at science research.
That's all one word? That's all one word together?
All one word, yep, mushroomreferences.com. Some of our research doctors at our laboratory help to support that website. So it's all published research that's relevant to human issues. Lots of different mushroom species. So if you want to learn more about reishi or lion's mane or turkey tail, there's a lot of different studies that you can go and look at the abstracts and conclusions of. And as you mentioned earlier too, Paul Stamets, he's got a great YouTube channel. Paul is a mycologist that's been studying fungal organisms for well over 50 years. The company, Fungi Perfecti, we've been around for 46 years working with mushrooms and studying them and growing them. So Paul is a phenomenal resource. The information that he puts out is really balanced. And Paul is deeply interacting with and engaged in the research processes and methodologies around many of the mushrooms that we put into our host defense products. So he's an excellent resource for people to start getting to know more about the world of the fungal kingdom.
Appreciate that, Richard. Perfect place to end it. So mushroomreferences.com, you'll see her on the left side, all the different categories they have. There's Agarikon, the top of the list there. It's in alphabetical order. Goes all the way through the microbiome here. There's 8 references there. Oyster mushrooms even. And I guarantee you'll find something in here, folks, that you've never heard of before. And look at all the psilocybin research, by the way. 179 different references there to the psilocybin kingdom. So, and then again, Paul Stamets' YouTube channel. You have it right here. And then just hit videos. And you'll see all the past videos he's put out. 137 of them. So no shortage of mushroom information out there, folks. We just got to know where to look. And that's where Richard helped today. So thank you, my good man. And I look forward to our next one.
Me too, Doctor. Thanks so much for the time today.